Welcome to the Beltway Broadcast, the premier podcast for the workplace learning and talent development professionals of the Association for Talent Development's Metro DC chapter. We've got some great resources in store for you today.
Hello, fellow ATDers. I'm Christina Eanes, owner of Eanes Training, as well as a chapter past president and a member of the pod squad here at the Metro DC chapter of ATD.
Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie Hubka, and I'm the managing partner of Produce Learning, and like Chris, I am also a chapter past president and a member of the pod squad.
We also have our producer, Halyna Hodges. Now for this episode, we're interviewing Josh Cavalier. Welcome, Josh.
Hey, how's it going?
Well, before, and I love this topic, I can't wait to get into it. Before we dive into it, can you share a little bit about your background with our listeners and viewers?
Oh, definitely. Believe it or not, this is my 30th year in learning and development. I can't even believe it.
Wow.
So obviously, if you do the math, I got started in 1994 as an art director for an e-learning firm based here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And that's what really set my career off right there. Was really caught up in the bank merging that was happening in the 90s. And I was doing tons of CD-ROM based training that had huge budgets. It was so much fun. We were doing gamification and video even on CD-ROM back in the days.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I started a business called Lodestone. Was one of the top Adobe authorized training partners in the United States. Built that up to like 5 offices and eventually spun that down. Got back into corporate 5 weeks before COVID hit. Became a learning architect for a $5 billion supply chain company. That was fascinating. Did all kinds of large projects, spun up Microsoft Teams for the whole company during COVID. A lot of data analytics type products as far as sales training, that kind of thing. Then AI happened and got the bug, dove in deep, and in March of 2023 started joshcavalier.ai. And in that capacity, that shows up with online courses. I do webinars. I do workshops for clients and doing a lot of speaking these days. So next week, I'll be at ATD Tech Knowledge, going to do ICE. There's a lot. So I'm keeping busy with AI. It's fascinating, and I can't wait to see what the future brings.
Oh, I know. And it's moving quickly now, it seems like. So now for diving into our topic, ChatGPT for learning and development, for those folks that have maybe heard the term and they're not quite sure what it is, can we first level set with what is ChatGPT in general, and then specifically for L&D, and then we'll dive even further?
Sure. Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it's a little confusing.
Mm-hmm.
If they attempt to use ChatGPT for the first time, it's kind of novel. But they might think, oh, these answers are coming from the internet. It could be coming from a database, which it is, but it's a different kind of database. And, ChatGPT is really, in regards to the public, our first look at a large language model at scale.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what that is essentially a software program that has been trained on billions, if not trillions, of parameters. Mm-hmm. And through probability, based upon the prompt or the words that we give it, it gives us a response back. Now, what's really scary is that some of those responses are really good. And so, and I think that's what freaks people out, is that depending upon the prompt, it gives you responses that, depending upon the work that you're doing, could be anywhere from 80 or 90% complete. So, large language models have been with us for quite some time. It's the chat interface. It's the ability to actually have a message box into it without having to do any programming. That was really the way that it set it off back in November of 2022.
Yeah. It's been really interesting to see how quickly ChatGPT has become part of the language just within workplaces. A lot of people have had a lot of curiosity. As far as learning and development is concerned, I would love to hear your thoughts on what how people might be able to get started with ChatGPT, because I think there are a lot of people who might use it in their personal lives or maybe their day-to-day as, a brainstorming partner. I've even heard people say, don't Google it, go into ChatGPT and ask it a question and see what it comes up with.
Right.
How have you seen organizations or practitioners using ChatGPT in their day-to-day?
It's across the board.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, it varies depending upon the type of organization and how risk adverse they are. Because I mean, out of the gate, like we're talking spring of 2023, I was consulting with some customers that they had their foot on the gas pedal and they were already trying to figure out how to use AI both internally and externally. And they were putting policies into place. They were thinking about training their own large language models and doing all kinds of craziness. And then on the flip side, even at the start of 2024, I still have customers that don't even have an AI policy in place.
Sure.
Wow.
So you have this wide range depending upon the size of the organization, leadership, and the way that they are taking a look at AI from a strategic standpoint, both internally and externally. So typically the way that I see that it shows up is really siloed and from the bottom up, as opposed from a top-down AI strategy. Now, that being the case, everybody's really concerned about intellectual property. So for the most part, if it's siloed and it's an L&D department and they're working independently and there's no AI policy in place, they're typically like using ChatGPT, or even if they don't have access to ChatGPT, they're using it on their phone and then emailing themselves the work. So I see that kind of activity happening. So it's really difficult to actually go in and just say, hey, as a whole, this is what L&D is doing with ChatGPT and AI. I think there's different shades of gray that you see out there as far as implementation.
Yeah. Now, you had mentioned intellectual property, and then I know copyright concerns are also there. Can you speak to those for the L&D professional?
Yeah, that's huge. The one thing that's really difficult is when I go to a client site or even do a webinar or whatever, there's always a segment of the population that I'm engaging with that's extremely concerned about the ethics around using artificial intelligence, specifically copyright. So for those of you that are not familiar, what we're talking about is what these models have been trained on. And it seems like some of the models have been trained on copyrighted information, not just text, but also some models that are doing images and video and audio and things like that. So where does that stand? Well, it's working its way through the courts. There is no legal precedent out there as far as these large entities, OpenAI, Microsoft, Anthropic, using copyrighted information. That'll get sorted out one way or the other. What we do know definitively is that if you use AI to create an image, not text, an image, that it's not copyrightable. Text, most people are saying, well, they're going in and they're changing the text. But even then, I think that if there was a copyright issue with text that was 100% created with AI, it's not copyrightable. That's my take on it. So, anytime that you're working with AI, you yourself as a professional need to determine what your relationship is with that. And are you good with the current situation in regards to copyright and other issues with AI?
Yeah, along those lines, I thinking a little bit about, even beyond copyright and what the output looks like. One question I've heard come up a number of times from some of the clients that I work with is, what about the content and information that you're putting into ChatGPT, or, really to any one of these, AI content generators of sorts, as far as what they might be able to give to you for responses. Is there any reason to be concerned if you were to put in intellectual, information that's covered by an intellectual property, agreement, or if there's anything confidential or something? Do we need to worry about what we are putting in there as ChatGPT is using that information? Or is there anything that we should be thinking about as far as how we're phrasing some of these searches?
Totally. Yes. Too many people have gotten into trouble for using IP or uploading IP into ChatGPT. Now, keep in mind, there are account types from OpenAI that are secure. So just to kind of give the quick rundown, you can have a free account that gives you access to the 3.5 model. You can have a plus account, which gives you access to the 4.0 model, which is superior. But there are no protections for your IP or your personal data that you're uploading. You're not going to go ahead and like upload a copy of your taxes and say, hey, what strategy should I use here in 2023 or for 2023 taxes? You don't want to do that. Now, keep in mind that there is a team option and also an enterprise option that does have data protection. So we know that any information that is uploaded is not retained or used to train the model. That's very specific to OpenAI, right? So again, you need to determine what kind of account do you have, and then if that's if you have a plus account, it better not be any kind of corporate IP or secrets or anything like that. But there are topics, there are different areas of skills or knowledge that's pretty wide open. If I was doing leadership training, or if I was doing ESG, environment, social governance, right? The matter of fact, that was the very first project that I used ChatGPT behind the corporate firewall using public-facing information. I took the ESG report from the prior year, uploaded it to begin to produce multiple choice questions that was going to go in a learning experience platform. It was extremely helpful with distractors. When you're writing 50 questions, those distractors can take a long time unless you use ChatGPT and a great prompt.
Right.
But that's really an example of, when you get the green light to actually use corporate IP if it's public facing information.
Yeah, nice. So, well, speaking of creating test questions and content or courses, one of the I've actually heard this from a few people come right out of their mouths. It's cheating. So, what is I'm sure you've probably heard that before, right? So, creating a course through ChatGPT, what would your I know what mine would be, but what's your response to that?
It's really interesting because when I first ChatGPT was released right around Thanksgiving in November 2022. I got my hands on it the first week in December, right? And I was prompting all throughout December. My wife thought I was doing social media on my phone. I was not. I was prompting, during the holidays. Come January, though, get back into the office and immediately started using it. And I would have side conversations with a few other people that started to hear or started to use it. And it was in whispers, it was like, hey, what do you think about this? And like, oh my God, dude, I wrote a script. I can't believe it, And so, from a professional standpoint, it felt like cheating. And and there's something about maintaining your integrity, right? And so you didn't understand the relationship between you and AI. At least I didn't understand the relationship between myself and AI. And it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm just going to take everything and copy it and just paste it, just use it as is. I was always like updating it or changing it, right?
Yeah.
And so I believe that if you are straight up like copying and pasting the work as is, I think that's cheating. Like, there's again, it's that relationship that you have with AI, and it's your assistant.
Yeah.
Right. You got to maintain your integrity. You need to go ahead, and I see it just as a tool. Right. Yeah. And as we go through the process, now I could, in my professional career, I have all kinds of different thoughts and ideas around learning science and, science of video and all kinds of different things like that. But I haven't read every single book. There's all kinds of little facets or information I'm still learning. And it's awesome to have a tool that fills the gap for you. You may not be proficient in a certain area. Like I'm horrible at writing marketing copy. Not anymore. And so,
Same here.
right. And so we now have these tools that make us show up a little bit better, a better version of ourselves. But the thing is that we got to maintain our professionalism, right? And I think that as we move forward, people are they're going to realize that, hey, wait, I need to really understand my craft before I truly use AI to the fullest extent, because people that don't quite know their craft are going to create really horrible outputs from AI because they don't know how to judge the content. We haven't gotten to the point yet to where these systems can self-judge. Like they can take a look at the outputs that they've created and rank or judge the quality of the output. We're not there yet. So we need human intervention. And I think that's the issue that we see today. And you can see it with certain posts or certain type of work that's out there. You're like, oh, it's AI generated. And immediately it loses all integrity.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. And, you've reminded me too, I've actually loved using ChatGPT as a brainstorming partner. It's done wonders for boosting creativity and getting me thinking. But I can also think of 2 occasions where ChatGPT has gotten something wrong. One time when the information that it gave to me was just completely wrong. It simply wasn't correct. Another time, and I thought this was interesting, it gave me a response and then it actually corrected itself. I got a message that said, "We're sorry. It looks like what we told you a moment ago is incorrect. Here is correct information." And I mention this because I'm curious about your thoughts on validating ChatGPT's responses to you. It seems that it is possible for ChatGPT to get something wrong. And while it certainly makes sense that you don't want to copy and paste something that you didn't create, you do want to be able to, uphold your own professional standards and ensure that things are correct. But what are your thoughts or even strategies on validating ChatGPT's outputs?
Yeah, I always review everything.
Yeah.
Totally. And I mean, in just like working yesterday, like I had so many emails that to catch up on. There was times where I was like going to ChatGPT, just take the email. They were asking a lot of information from me.
Yeah.
And because I had custom instructions on, and for those of you that are not familiar with custom instructions, this is information that you can give ChatGPT prior to prompting. Like I can give ChatGPT information about myself, my tone of voice, who I am as a professional, and it's reflected in the outputs. So that's custom instructions. But I was just like taking their emails and putting it into ChatGPT saying, "Hey, I just got this email. How should I respond?" This is like, my willpower is like, extremely
We've
low.
all been there.
And I was looking at it and I'm like, holy crap, this is great. Like, this is like really good. I just need to change this, and this, and I'm done.
Yeah.
And I think, but again, you're still maintaining your professionalism. It's just like, it's just giving you a boost and as you mentioned, like a creative partner.
Yeah.
And you got to look at it like that. And I think so many people are like, oh, it's going to automate and it's just going to go ahead and take our jobs. I just don't see it that way.
Yeah.
Even if we get to automation, and I've talked to a few people that are doing autonomous agents right now. I believe that we'll get to a point to where we are the conductors and the AI, we're orchestrating the AI. And at a certain point, AI is going to be like, whoa, I need eyes on this. And I'm talking human eyes. So it'll go in and start doing a whole bunch of work for us. And then it'll hit the pause button and go, I need you to look at this image. I need you to look at this copy. I need you to look at this e-learning course. Right? There has to be a human evaluation, and then it can continue on with its process. I don't think it's going to be fully automated.
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite prompt is "make this better," and then I'll paste
right?
like my email.
I've done that too.
So I'm hearing this is an amazing tool, and it's also important that we have knowledge in the area so that we can make sure and create a good prompt, and then we can also verify and judge what comes out of that. Is there anything else you want us to know about ChatGPT for L&D?
Yeah, just keep in mind that even the creators of large language models, OpenAI, they're still learning about how it works. And even the experts, people that I would consider expert, we are still trying to understand this weird combination of natural language, human psychology, and programming. it is wild. I mean, some of the research that comes out, it blows my mind that you can tell tell a large language model that, hey, I'm going to go ahead and give you a $200 tip if you make this better. And it creates better content. Well, what is that about? Like, I mean, how does that work? To the point to where you are, encouraging or using language or using certain words that elicit better results through tipping or take a pause and breathe and then give me a response.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That also gives you better solutions. It's wild.
It's an incredible time to be in learning and development, is it not? It's amazing.
Yeah. And I think we're just getting started too. You have to keep in mind that, there's two major components that really make up artificial, or at least generative AI. It's data and it's compute power. And we're getting models that have more information in them. We have these large closed end vendors like OpenAI and Microsoft and Meta. They're scaling up their architectures to the sum of billions of dollars. And really, we've only scratched the surface with multimodal, which is the ability to go ahead and create multiple mediums or multiple outputs from a model. We kind of see it a little bit with DALL-E and creating images in ChatGPT, but using the DALL-E engine. But I believe with either GPT 4.5 or 5, it's going to be true multimodal, to where you can go ahead and all kinds of different inputs, which could be text, image, audio, video, code, 3D images. I mean, it goes on and on. And then you have those various outputs, right?
Yeah.
If we look at Google's product, Gemini, that's a true multimodal model to where you'll be able to go ahead and do inputs and outputs. So eventually we'll be able to take a video, upload it into ChatGPT, and it'll give us a transcript. And then from that video, be able to go ahead and, give us closed captions, and then take the transcription and give me a blog post, or create some marketing content, or start an e-learning course, or whatever the case may be. And there's so many different ways we'll be able to take the information and transform it.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun to be part of that. And I'm thrilled that we had you here to introduce us to this topic. I know for a lot of practitioners, this is new. This is very new. And like you said, there are organizations who have policies, who don't have policies, who are jumping in, who are begging their team members to not use it because they don't know it or trust it yet. So we've got quite a bit that we're learning, and we're all learning it together. So I've loved this overview very much. I really appreciate it. And I'm really glad that we have a few final moments together, because we have 3 final questions for you.
All
and
right.
you are welcome to bring up ChatGPT, feed them these questions in real time, see what they come up with.
Okay, well, let me...
So at the end of every episode, we like to ask our 3 rapid fire style questions. You get 60 seconds or so to tell us your thoughts and responses. What do you think? Are you ready for the first one?
Sure.
All right. First question for you today is, give us one book that everyone must read and why.
All right. So one of my favorite books of all time is called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman.
That's a great one.
And it has completely transformed the way that I think about cognitive load. And Kahneman gets into System 1, which is our very fast reaction type thinking, and then System 2, which requires a lot of work on our part. And I think the one big takeaway that I had from this book is, from a physiological standpoint, our body is affected by hard topics. Or when your mind gets tapped out or you have cognitive load, like, your pupils will actually go ahead and close. Like, it's wild. Like, there's a physiological change when things become tough. And so that's a must read book. Again, Thinking Fast and Slow by Kahneman.
Yeah, I have to second that. It is a game changer in a lot of ways. That's a great selection. Second question for you is, what is one tool that you can't live without?
ChatGPT.
I kind of knew that was coming.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's like, that's an easy answer, but after a year of using this tool, specifically GPT-4, there has yet to be another tool to exceed the outputs that I'm getting from this one model. And this is, prompt engineering, I believe, is going to be around for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
You could wait to go ahead and learn how to prompt ChatGPT, but don't. I think you're going to be well served moving forward when you understand the nuances of prompt engineering, whether you're using ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot, or even eventually prompting inside of Storyline or Captivate or Lectora or some other e-learning development tool. Prompting is going to be with us for a while. But yeah, ChatGPT, GPT-4 by far my favorite tool.
Oh, that's a good one. And again, not surprised. I think you're right on as far as tools that are really important. Last question for you today is, what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Stay curious and keep learning, because once you stop learning, you stop growing. And over my career, multiple people have said that to me, but in different ways, and I have, and there they are. Yeah, sorry about that. Just right at the end. But and you see, that is even now, especially with AI, I think you need to at least put aside 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day and take some time and learn about it. Don't be afraid of it, because it's going to be a part of our lives moving forward. So yeah, stay curious, keep learning, and keep growing.
That's great advice.
It is.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us today, Josh.
I really appreciate it. I had fun today.
This is wonderful.
And of course, we want to thank our community for listening or watching. Before you go, we have a message from our producer, Halyna Hodges.
Are you a member of the Metro DC chapter of ATD? We have resources just for you. Go to dcatd.org and select the members-only section of resources to access our digital library, member directory, and chapter documents.
Love this episode? Make sure to subscribe to the podcast and provide a review.